11 is going to cover the medians of a triangle. So the definition of the median is right up here. A median is the line from a vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. So the important words of this definition are the fact that it's coming from a vertex and it's going to the midpoint of the opposite side. Okay? We know from Unit 1 what a midpoint is, and that's the middle of a segment. So my little memory trick for this definition is median, middle. Same thing with like midpoint, middle, median, middle. Okay? So let's see what this looks like in a picture. Let's draw the median from A. Okay? So that means that it's coming from the vertex A, and this is my starting point. Okay? So that's the first part of the definition, is it's coming from a vertex. I know I have to start at A, and I need to go to the midpoint of the opposite side. Well, let's figure out what the opposite side is first. The opposite side, if I think about drawing like an arrow, is BC. Okay? So I know that I have to start here at A and land on BC exactly in the middle. So I'm actually going to find that point first. I'm going to find the middle of BC, and I'm going to connect those two. There's my line, but there's something still missing from my picture. Because it is a midpoint, there's something you need to put in the picture to show that that point is exactly in the middle, and that is my tick marks. Okay? So make a note to yourself. You need to have tick marks to show that that's the midpoint. Okay? Let's do a non-example. So this is another way to say this is maybe like a common mistake. Okay? Oops, sorry, my pen's just not writing. A common mistake. Alright? If I still start from vertex C, and maybe I still draw to the opposite side, we'll say, a common mistake is not knowing what to do with your tick marks. So either you think maybe the angles are congruent, or the sides that are next to vertex C are congruent and not the actual correct ones. Alright? So be very careful about these common mistakes. It's always the side that's opposite from the vertex. Let's look at a few examples. Okay? So the first thing I could ask you to do would be to name the median. So that means I'm going to look at my picture and I'm going to look for a segment that's going from a vertex to the midpoint. Well, I see tick marks in my picture, so I know that E has to be the midpoint of that side. Well, what vertex did that line come from? That line came from Y. So my median is YE. Okay? Similarly, I can ask you to draw a median in example 2. Now notice it says draw the median PL. It doesn't tell me what vertex to start at. However, my only options for vertices are P, A, and T. And if I'm looking at my median PL, I know that P is one of my vertices. So that means I'm going to start at P, and I have to go to the opposite side. The opposite side is TA. I have to go through the midpoint, and notice now I have my other point. I have my other point L that I can connect and make a median. Oh, I'm not done though, because I just said L was the midpoint, which means I need those tick marks, right? Okay, let's look at number 3. And now we can start moving into actual measurements of things. So if IY is a median, let's mark that in the picture. So if IY is a median, that means I'm starting from a vertex, and that means Y is a midpoint. So I'm going to put in some tick marks. Now I want to determine the measure of TY, so that's this chunk here, and the measure of YM, that's this blue chunk here. Well, notice the orange and the blue chunks, those are congruent. And I told you in the picture that the entire segment is 14. So I can take 14 and divide it by 2, and that's going to give me my two congruent parts, 7 and 7. So the measure of TY is 7, and the measure of YM is also 7. Now let's look at number 4. So number 4, my goal is to determine the value of X and some measures, but I'm going to skip that for now. If MA is a median, again, what we should do first is take this fact and mark it. So since MA is a median, here's M, here's A, there's my vertex, here's my midpoint, I'm going to put some tick marks in. We know when we're setting up equations, or sorry, we know that when we're determining x, we need to set up an equation. A lot of you are having some trouble with equations. If I'm putting in tick marks here, that means that those two things are equal. So the equation that you're going to set up is something equals something else, okay? What are the two things that have tick marks here? Those are the two sides, 6x plus 12 and 4x plus 30. Those two segments have to be equal since MA is a median. Then we can solve from here. Let's bring my x's to the same side, minus 4x minus 4x. I get 2x plus 12 equals, that canceled, so 30. Subtract 12, subtract 12 from both sides. I get 2x equals, I think that's 18. Divide by 2, and I get that x is 9. So I determined the value of x, and now I still have to go back in and find those measures from the beginning, right? So let's go back and plug in. I want to find the measure of BA. Well, BA is this chunk here, so I'm going to plug into 6 times x, which was 9, plus 12. 9 times 6 is 54. 54 plus 12, I believe that gets me 66. So BA is 66. Right away, I should know AU because those two are congruent, right? AU is also going to be 66, and if I think about that, 4 times 9 is 36, plus 30 does get me 66. And now, last but not least, let's find BU. So the measure of BU, that's all the way from one side to the other side. I can add 66 plus 66 and get I think it's 132 when you add those, but you can check that for me, okay? So I can name, I can draw, and then I can solve algebra problems and for measurements. All right? Good luck.